On? Thank you very much for inviting me. The two people I do know well aren't here, Mayor Jack and I saw Joy rushing out to go to a negotiating meeting. So anyways, I'm pleased to be here. I understand that I have 10 minutes to give an oral presentation. Okay. I represent an industry association. My members are producers of clean energy, and what that means is that they are involved in generating and operating of wind farms, small hydro, biomass, and also natural gas generation. We have 225 members, of which 80 are core developers, and these are the folks that I just mentioned. The rest are supply chain people, law firms, engineering companies, and so forth. We have 8 First Nation organizations that are members. Usually these are economic development corporations or companies off of First Nations. What I want to speak to you about today is the possible significant electricity load growth in this area as a result of LNG developments. And we believe, as an industry association, that there's a cleaner way of doing it using renewable and natural gas. Oops. Go back one. I'm going to start over again. I think worldwide, just to put in context, we know that the world is still very dependent upon fossil fuels, and I'm not here to criticize fossil fuels at all. But if you look on the graph or the map on the left there, the black indicates fossil fuels, and most of that is coal for electricity generation. In terms of impacts, the map on the right shows you in red what the mountain pine beetle has meant to British Columbia. And some folks would say that that is one of the first climate impacts in British Columbia. Another, if Joy were here, that I'd point out is some of the changes in the Fraser River in terms of sockeye returns. And I think the Cohen inquiry last year pointed at the possible impacts from climate. So in British Columbia, despite the fact that we've had a provincial election where the economic agenda has dominated, I think my point here is to say that we can't ignore the need to balance the environment with the economy. The other narrative or perspective, certainly knowledgeable to all of you in the Northwest, but throughout British Columbia, is the fact that in BC, 2/3 of the landmass are not covered by treaties. And that's an important feature for our industry, because we pride ourselves as a clean energy sector that we work very well with First Nations. And in fact, 125 bands have had some involvement with the clean energy sector, and by and large, while it's not perfect, this is an industry sector that First Nations embrace. In fact, of the 12 major projects that are being built right now by my members, and this is the peak of activity, about $2.6 billion in capital expenditures, 2,300 direct jobs, 700 jobs are those with First Nations, and approximately $240 million in revenues will go to First Nations through the life of the power purchase agreements that these 12 companies have. And as an example, these are the Cape Scott Wind Farm, these are the Quality Wind Project up in the Peace Country, trying to think of some of the others. It's the Kanaka Bar Indian Band working on the Kaik project in the Fraser Canyon, and the Kokish project with the Numgus First Nation on northern Vancouver Island, and so forth. So my point here is to say First Nations, in terms of resource development in this province, are the key players. They must be, and our industry embraces that. Some of the summary numbers of the clean energy sector is that we're not a new industry. People think of us as being brand new, but the private sector involved in electricity generation dates back about 20 years. And those are the numbers. I won't go through them there. But about 15% of the electricity that comes through the BC Hydro grid comes from our members. There's another 5 to 7% comes from mining companies and forest companies that also generate electricity as a sidelight. But we don't represent them. We represent the private sector, whose main purpose, their primary purpose, is electricity generation. The point I'd make here is that our price is competitive. I know our opponents and those who are somewhat opposed to the private sector involved like to point out that we're more expensive than BC Hydro. That's not true. If BC Hydro were to build today, not their old projects, but their projects today, our prices are competitive, virtually the same. Our prices are also levelized, meaning for the life of the contract, be it a 20-year wind contract or a 40-year hydro contract, the price is the same. That's the way that these are negotiated. We're not a commodity-driven business. These are utilities, and utilities tend to, get a return on their investment of, you pick a number, 12 to 15, 16%. It's not a commodity where you hit the ball out of the park. The companies that are involved in this, backed by pension funds and life cos, are there for the long term. I threw this in here just to show or make the point that electricity has been used as an economic development tool in this province before. In fact, W.A.C. Bennett overbuilt purposely. The major dam building era in this province occurred in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, and we purposely overbuilt to attract pulp and paper to do forest developments. If you look to 2034 there, we're in a position where we're system short. We're not going to have the power. We certainly don't have surplus. And the question then becomes, should we also be looking to power industry to come in the future, and certainly in this area, LNG, and a little bit more about that in a moment. As we understand it, and this is still not a certainty, but the government is banking on, when I did this chart a number of months ago, it was 3 LNG, and now if you look to the provincial government's information, they're looking at 5, 4, maybe even more LNG plants between Kitimat and Prince Rupert. The load growth, the electricity, or the power demand, I shouldn't say electricity, the power demand from that is unprecedented. If you were to put that into kind of numbers with the 3 LNG proposed there, you would be looking at 50% more electricity than the province has today, if you were to use electricity. Another way to look at it would be the equivalent of 3 Site Cs, whether you support Site C or not. So this is unprecedented load. Now, if you go to the supply side of that chart, the LNG companies, by and large, that are wanting to come here don't want to go to electricity. Their preferred option is to go to what they call mechanical direct drive, which in simple terms is to take a jet engine and bolt it onto their compressors. And again, this is not to criticize them. That's a technology they know in the world, and they're very concerned about going to electric drive, they say, because they haven't tested it and used it. I think our point here is that in terms of electricity, if you go to electricity, it's cleaner, and I think the information that you might have received is arguably it's 16 to 20% cleaner if you go to electric drives versus mechanical direct drives, and from an environmental point of view, that's important. But the key thing for electricity with the northwest part of the province, the northern part of the province, is that you keep optionality. If LNG dries up and goes away in 15 to 20 years, if it's been mechanical direct drive, they leave. There's nothing left behind. And I think the key message I want to leave you is that we need it for the environment, so protecting the environment, but also in an economic sense, you want to leave legacy infrastructure. If you build electric facilities, if you build the transmission line to service them, then when LNG leaves, there's something else to attract the next set of industries to have reliable power for the Northwest. In terms of the Northwest and throughout the province, we're a province blessed with clean electricity, and those clusters in green gives you the intensity of what kind of potential exists. Not all of them are cost-effective today, but certainly small hydro, onshore wind, biomass in some cases, natural gas generation are indeed cost-effective. Transmission is important in this equation. Right now, the main 500 kilovolt line from Prince George to Skeena Substation in Terrace has some capacity, but in terms of what's proposed for mining load in the north and what's proposed for LNG here, that line cannot meet that requirement, and hence part of the rationale for why the LNG companies want to go to their own mechanical direct drive is they're saying at this point there is no transmission capacity to serve their needs. we would say as the private sector in clean energy that our members can help build that line, and it can be under a P3 or some other mechanism like that. But building that line, again, gives optionality. So a second 500 kilovolt line would be our preference. I guess my final slide here is to say that the province, with the most recent election, the Premier made the commitment that our LNG would be the cleanest in the world. And we want to work with the province, we want to work with BC Hydro on delivering that. And the keys to doing that is electrification, building transmission, and using natural gas, maybe in terms of generation, relying more upon natural gas, but as time goes on, if you build a transmission line, then you have the optionality of building in renewables as you go. Renewables then are supported by First Nations and local governments. Those provide the jobs, those provide the incomes and the resources, and I think there's a happy medium here with clean environment and economic development. And if there are questions, I'd be pleased to take them. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Korea. Is there anybody from council have any questions?
Thank you.
Sorry. TP 1305 for 308 Prince Rupert Boulevard be approved. Mr. Grecki, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is the second report. At the conclusion of the last meeting, May 27, Council approved public notification, which was conducted. The application is to vary the front property setback. It is graphically presented on page 17, which will produce uneven encroachment, therefore leaving uneven front yard by so little, but nevertheless. Within the context of the neighborhood, this kind of oscillation is not of any great consequences. And as at time that I wrote this report, there were no inquiries or any complaints. And in fact, as of the 4:30 this afternoon, we didn't receive any inquiries or complaints. And based on that, there's nothing stopping council for approving the development variance permit.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ashley.
I'll move the recommendation.
Do I have a seconder? Okay, Councillor Pearson. Is there any questions from council? All those in favor? Carried. Under reports and recommendations, report from Corporate Administrator, Watson Island Crossing, train whistling. Recommendation that the council provide permission to the District of Port Edward to access the rail crossing located on Watson Island in order to carry out a safety railroad crossing assessment.
I'll move the recommendation.
Do I have a seconder? Okay. All those in favor? Question? Okay. Carried. C, we have a report from the Corporate Administrator and the Building Inspector, re 1183 Ambrose Avenue. The recommendation that Council rescind the rec and remove order on the residence located at 1183 Ambrose Avenue and legally described as lots 21, 22, 23, and 24. Block 3, Section 7, Range 5, Plan 923, District Lot 251. And is there any question on this?
I'll move the recommendation.
I'll second it, but I do have a question.
Yes, Councillor Ashley.
I'm just wondering if we could get just a little bit of, I mean, I read through the report, but just a little bit more background just for the purpose of people that are listening so that they understand why we're being asked to remove or rescind the wreck and remove order.
Yes, Your Worship. A couple of months ago, this property came in front of council. It's been neglected for a very long time, and city staff was unable to successfully engage with the owners to get the property cleaned up. So city council passed a wreck and remove order upon the property. Subsequent to that, very recently, the registered owner is seeking to sell the property owner to a new owner, and the new owner is satisfied staff at this stage that they're going to take the remediation of this property seriously. The reason we have to rescind the order as to put it into abeyance is we fully expect the registered owner to change, so the previous order or the previous resolution wouldn't be effective. So council can watch this, the evolution of this property and the repairs made to it, and in 2 or 3 months, if they're not satisfied, they can certainly direct staff to bring it back to council for another resolution.
Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, correspondence fraction, resolutions. Resolutions from the closed meeting. Oops, sorry. Oh, right, I'm sorry, I missed that one. A report from the Acting Chief Financial Officer for the 2012 Annual Report. The recommendation that Council, by resolution, approve the circulation of the 2012 Annual Report and set the date of June 24th, 2013 for the public meeting on the Annual Report. Councillor Pearson.
I'll move the recommendation with some small edits in the council bios, and I think we could still move it, right? With that, which is a small edit. Okay.
Okay. Councillor Ashley.
So I just there's one thing I just wanted to just point out, just a minor part that's missing. Page 5. It's in my bio, but at the end it just sort of says this is Anna's second term on council and her primary focus will be to foster meaningful, and it doesn't finish the sentence. So just put community dialogue and that's good enough.
Okay. Anything further?
I think you had something, right? Did you? No?
No.
Okay.
Okay, question? All those in favor? Carry. Now.
Councillor Garan has something, Your Worship.
Councillor Garan, yes.
I just wanted to thank staff for putting the report together. I know it's been tough on them being short-staffed and changing staff, so I commend them for getting our annual report out. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. Thank you. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say His Worship will be back. He has to go and do some presentations of medals this evening, but he will be coming back sometime during the meeting. Okay, resolutions from the closed meeting.
Yes, Your Worship. In tonight's closed meeting, Council has authorized staff to release the following information: that Helen Moore, Lauren Williams, and Jan Palmer have been appointed to the Library Board for 2-year terms; that Captain Keith Hopkins and Melanie Frizzell have been appointed to 1-year terms on the Tourism Prince Rupert Board; and that Council has appointed Mr. Bob Long, the City Manager, to the City West Board of Directors.
Good. Thank you, sir. Is there any questions or anything on those? Okay. No bylaws and no additional items. Report from our City Manager. Outstanding Council initiatives, please.
Yes, I'll make a report on the second meeting, which I gather is traditional. So, but there is a couple of things today. One of them is a letter that we received. I'll ask the corporate administrator to read out.
Thank you. This letter was received from newly elected MLA Jennifer Rice. It reads: Dear Mayor and Council, As you know, I have been elected as a new MLA for North Coast. This was officially determined on June 5, 2013, when the writ was returned. After careful consideration and discussion with all of you, I think the best option for me to be of effective service is to immediately resign my position on Prince Rupert City Council. Thank you all for providing feedback and communicating your desires for what is best for Prince Rupert in this situation. I have enjoyed working with all of you and staff. It is my hope that we will continue to work together in seeing our region thrive. I have learned so much and know that I am taking all of that I learned from Prince Rupert City Council with me to Victoria so I can continue to represent our region. Sincerely, Jennifer Rice. We received that June 10th, 2013.
Thank you very much. Councillor.
Just to note on that, I'd like to commend Jennifer Rice and her time that she spent with us. And I know that she's been really torn about this decision since she was even started to run for MLA. So I really commend her for making the decision, regardless if she were to stay or to go. Jen has a lot on her plate right now, and I fully support her and really congratulate her on her new position as MLA. I think that she's going to do wonderful in her position. So if she's out there listening somewhere, good job, Jen, and nice working with you.
And we all wish her the best. Okay. Reports, questions, and inquiries from members of council. Councillor Garon.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I guess this is for the city manager. Where do we go from here with Councillor Rice's resignation?
Sure, I was going to address that. The staff will bring forward a report at the next council meeting laying out the timeframes and the things that are required for council to move forward in accordance with the Act. So we'll move forward with that. I did have one more thing before we move on, and that was that if council is so disposed, a resolution to cancel the council meeting in July. What is it, 27th? 29th?
Okay. Councillor Ashley.
I will move that we cancel the cancel the council meeting on scheduled for July 29th.
Second.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Councillor Ashley.
I just wanted to speak to the motions. Basically, we could end up with having some short staff issues, I think, during the summer. And I think that if there is emergency situations, we can have that dealt with through gathering of council. But at the moment, I think it makes sense to have one meeting per month, and then hopefully staffing issues will be solved by the fall.
Thank you very much. Any other comment from council? Okay, question? All those in favor? Carried. Yes, Councillor Ashley.
So there's been a lot of discussion with LNG plants and lots and lots of different presentations, open houses, and I think that not only council but the entire community is probably on overload in terms of all of the information that we're getting, and in dealing with these things, it kind of comes down to when we have so many projects, not just LNG, but developments being put forward, it really challenges the capacity of our staff and just like the whole area to try and deal with the overwhelming amount of information that's going on in order to understand it properly, etc. And this is not my idea, but it is something that I'm bringing forward, that we write a letter to our provincial and or federal government counterparts to see what kind of help we can get in terms of dealing with these environmental concerns, whether it's that they develop an office, they provide us with staff member or something along those lines. So I'm looking for what other people think along those lines.
Good. Is there any comment from any Councillor Garon?
Was that a motion you made? No.
No, I put it out there, but I thought if we discuss it, we can put it together into a motion.
Yeah, I think it has more to do with more than just the environmental issue. We need help dealing with these companies. So if the provincial or federal government could inject us with some kind of money to hire maybe an engineering firm or a geotech firm or some kind of consultants to come in and help us, because we do not have the capacity to deal with these sophisticated companies. We're busy trying to run our city. We already have one industrial site that we're spending far too much time on as a city. So I think it's good that we try to get some help from the federal and provincial government.
Thank you.
I'll make it into a motion then. So motion would be that we write a letter to the provincial and or federal government ministries to ask for their help, financial and or otherwise, in dealing with all of these development concerns that are coming up, so that we can deal with the capacity issues that we have as municipalities, regional districts, etc., just local governments. So that's the motion.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Judy Carlick-Pearson. Is there a question? All those in favor? Carried. Is there any other questions or inquiries from members of council? Councillor Garon.
Thank you, Your Worship. Since Councillor Rice has resigned, our acting mayor schedule needs to be changed. So I don't know if we leave that up to staff to do that tonight, or how do you want to handle that?
Mr. Grodecki?
I think probably the best way is let staff work it up and bring it back in a report for the June 24th meeting.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Pearson.
I could just maybe suggest to Phil, because Jennifer was next after Councillor Kinney, and then I could take her position, and then we could start the rotation again.
Also, I would like to suggest, because in August I will be gone, so that was my month too. Mm-hmm. And so if we can work it out so that I could,
sure,
with the August, if Mr. Grodecki.
Just you can email your suggestions in. The best way to do it is to work up a report for the next meeting, and then with incorporating all the suggestions councillors make, and then we can take it from there.
Thank you, sir. Any further questions? I have just one. I would like to say a special thank you to our Special Events Committee for a wonderful Seafest. They did a great job, weather and all. It was fantastic. Also, I'd like to compliment our seniors on bringing the Red Hat ladies together. They had a wonderful time in Prince Rupert, and it just shows you that Prince Rupert can do it with hospitality, rain or shine. So a special kudos to all the ones and the volunteers for the Seafest. Thank you. If there's nothing further, I'll call for a motion for... Yes, Robert.
Yeah, the recommendation would be to adjourn the regular meeting of June 10th, 2013, and following a 5-minute break, reconvene the closed meeting of June 10th, 2013.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Question? All those in favor? Carried. Now that's a nice short meeting. Yeah.